Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2020 Hungarian Grand Prix, the final race of the first triple header. Now, the Hungaroring track isn't always one that throws up an absolute classic, although there have been some very good races over the years. And maybe this will surprise a few, but last year's race in Hungary was actually one of my favourites of the year. Of course, it was nowhere near the likes of Germany or Austria, but I honestly really enjoyed it. Chaos can be a lot of fun, but there's just something about two exceptional talents driving flat out for 70 laps, and Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen both did just that. The pace the two of them demonstrated in their battle for the win wasn't just impressive, it was relentless. In fact, had they not made those second pit stops, they would probably have lapped up to and including Sebastian Vettel in third place. Absolutely dominant. It was also so tense watching Lewis closing down Max in those final stages on those fresher tyres. I loved that race between the two of them. It wasn't all just about the battle at the front though. Following some contact on lap 1, Bottas had to make an early stop, and so we got to watch him trying to make his way back through the field, eventually recovering to 8th. There was also a good battle between the two Ferraris, with Vettel making a move for 3rd in the final laps, and we got the usual midfield scrap too, and some close fighting between Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen that the Aussie was, let's say, far from impressed with. And what about that side-by-side action between the two Toro Rossos too? Great to watch, and I'm still surprised that did not end in some kind of contact. Will last year's Hungarian Grand Prix go down as one of the greatest races of all time? Probably not by a long way, but it was still a very good race, and I really hope we can see more of Hamilton versus Verstappen this weekend. Okay, time for some stats then. The first World Championship Grand Prix in Hungary was held in 1986, the year I was born. That obviously means there have been 34 races held at the Hungaroring, with 17 different drivers taking victory over the years. The first was Nelson Piquet, and the most recent was, of course, Lewis Hamilton last year. On that note, Hamilton has actually won 7 times in Hungary, and if he can make it 8 this weekend, he will equal Michael Schumacher's record of most wins at a single Grand Prix, a record set by the German in France. When it comes to qualifying, 15 different drivers have taken pole since 1986, with Michael Schumacher holding the record for the most with 7. The pole sitter has gone on to win 15 times over the years, with the winner coming from the front row 22 times, and that obviously means the race has been won by a driver starting 3rd or lower on 12 occasions. As for the track itself, a lap runs for 4.381 kilometres, that's 2.722 miles, and consists of 14 corners, that is 6 to the left and 8 to the right, and there will be a total of 70 laps for the race on Sunday. There are just the 2 DRS zones this weekend though, and that's one down the start-finish straight and the other on the run to turn 2. The race lap record is held by Max Verstappen, and that's a 1:17.103, and the fastest ever lap around the circuit was also set by Verstappen, who posted a 1:14.572 on his way to pole position last year. In fact, both the records were set in 2019. That's it for the stats though, but what does the lap around the circuit actually look like? Well, once again, it is time to hand over to Tom for his virtual lap guide of the Hungaroring.
Right guys, welcome back to another F1 2020 track guide here this season. We are here now finally on the F1 2020 game, and we have the black Mercedes around the Hungaroring for a hot lap of the circuit. So first and foremost, the exit at the final corner, very, very important around here as we now race down towards turn 1, DRS wide open, braking just before the 50-meter board. Little lock up on the entry is not going to cause too much harm. Try and short shift your way out of there to get a good exit as we now go down the hill towards turn number 2. Important to try and keep the car relatively tight to the apex and then let the car run wide on the exit, picking up the traction and keeping it flat out through the next right. We then end sector 1 and start sector 2. Going over this blind crest, running it in 7th gear, using all the track available. We then go into this long right, important to pick up a late apex using all the curbing on the exit as we now go down towards the chicane. 3rd gear, really important to use all the curbing once again, let the car run wide if you need to really maximise the lap time. And we now begin the sequence of long, fast, flowing bends in this sector 2 where it's all about downforce and having that car setup and confidence and, you know, running them at a medium to high speed. This last one really, really good. We then end sector 2 and start the final sector, 90-degree right to kick things off. Really, really important to use 3rd gear through there and then short shift on the exit. This corner here, very tricky. There's a little bump on the entry which makes you lock up on the front left, so very important to try and manage that as best as possible. And then use the pit entry to widen the track a little bit as we now enter the final corner. 4th gear and then short shift to 5th on the exit if we need for extra traction. DRS open across the line, and there we have a lap of the Hungaroring. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we've had 2 great races so far in Austria and Styria. hopefully race number 3 is also just as good. But guys, that is it from me here today, and I'll now hand back to Sean for the rest of the video.
There you go then. How good does that black Mercedes look in game, by the way? But thanks once again to Tom for sending that lap over, and to Lights Out Blog for this week's stats. And as always, you can find a link to their channels and websites in the description down below. Moving on though, let's talk tyres, and you might just get a sense of deja vu here, because for the third Grand Prix in a row in 2020 and for the second year in a row in Hungary, the tyre compounds available are the hard C2, the medium C3 and the soft C4. And just a quick reminder that all drivers will once again be given the same allocation, which is 2 sets of the hards, 3 of the mediums and 8 of the softs. Tyre wear is generally quite low around the Hungaroring, so Pirelli are expecting a one-stop race. However, as we saw last year, 2 stops can also work very well. Safety cars could play a part, however only 5 races in Hungary have been affected by a safety car period over the years. So I'd say that's quite a low chance if we just look at the historical numbers. And of course, the weather could play its part too, and at time of recording, showers are forecast for all 3 days of running, with at least a 30% chance of rain for FP1 and FP2. That climbs to 40% for qualifying and 60% for the race. I think I can get behind some wet running this weekend. As always though, it is only Thursday and there is still plenty of time for that to change. Right, before I get on to my predictions, let's have a look at a few news stories worth the mention ahead of this weekend. And Toto Wolff has said that he is convinced Red Bull will be a major threat to the Silver Arrows this weekend. We've been here before. Toto points to Red Bull's historical pace around the circuit as one of his reasons for concern, but added that hot temperatures are still an Achilles heel for Mercedes, and those temperatures could reach 30 degrees Celsius on Sunday, so keep an eye on that one. The Mercedes boss also pointed to Red Bull's strength in the high downforce corners and believes they are ahead of the Silver Arrows in that area. Anyone else fully expecting a Mercedes 1-2 on Sunday now? Christian Horner has urged the team to keep patience with Alex Albon and said they should be ready to offer support should it be needed. Good job Red Bull are known for their patience when it comes to their drivers, eh? Horner did acknowledge though that it hasn't been easy for Albon to make the step up to the main team, but feels that given his lack of experience he's actually done quite well. Now Albon did finish Sunday's race 10 seconds behind his teammate, but had Max not made a late pit stop, the gap would have been somewhere around 35 seconds. However, Horner has explained that Albon's early pace was compromised by a tyre issue, specifically concern over potential blistering on the right front soft tyre, and once he had pitted, he was back up to speed. Hopefully, fingers crossed for him, Alex Albon can get closer to Verstappen this weekend. Claire Williams has said that she is confident ahead of this weekend and thinks the Williams will suit the Hungaroring track. Of course, last weekend, George Russell managed to make it out of Q1 for the first time, and last year in Hungary, he was hundredths of a second away from doing the same. So that confidence, I think it's fair to say, is understandable, especially if we do see rain in quali this week. Williams also took the opportunity to praise her team for their lack of errors during the opening 2 races of the season, and is hopeful the team will be able to deliver more positive performances over the course of this season, having spent much of last year trundling around at the back of the pack. And finally for this part, Gunther Steiner insists that the team can improve as the season goes on and is hopeful for a better weekend overall in Hungary. The team suffered brake issues during the Austrian Grand Prix, which saw both drivers retire, and although they did finish the race last Sunday, there were still issues with reliability during qualifying for Romain Grosjean, and the team remained pointless after the opening 2 rounds. Steiner admitted that Haas were towards the back end of the pecking order, but believes the team could be stronger in Hungary because there are fewer straights than there were in Austria. A lot of concern around all the Ferrari-powered teams and their lack of power in a straight line. It should also very quickly be mentioned as well, by the way, that according to reports in Italy, Ferrari are set to bring more upgrades in Hungary. But at time of recording, there's been no mention of anything for the engine. They are aero updates. So that's a few things to keep an eye on this weekend, and if you were expecting a quick line on the Vettel to Aston Martin rumour, by the way, I prefer to keep to the facts as much as possible during these previews rather than focusing on speculation, but there will be a video out on that in the coming days, maybe in place of tomorrow's Friday roundup, we'll see. On that note though, let's speculate with some predictions. Such a hypocrite. Anyway, prior to Toto Wolff's comments, I was actually set to get right behind Red Bull with these, but how many times have we fallen for the Team X will be a real threat line over the last year or so? Historically, it is a track that Red Bull have done fairly well at, and it is, on paper, a circuit that should suit their car. Then again, as already mentioned, Lewis Hamilton has won here 7 times in total, and 4 of those have been with Mercedes. And right now, certainly based on their pace in Austria, I think he will be taking an 8th victory at the track this weekend, and also I think he'll take pole position as well. Now, I'm not just saying this to try and build up some kind of hype. but I honestly do believe that Red Bull will be much closer than they were last weekend. So I'm going to hedge my bets and put Verstappen second, splitting the two Mercedes. But I would also quite like to see Alexander Albon in third place, at least get a podium, lift some of that pressure that came from last weekend. As for best of the rest, once again, it's a very tough call. I do believe that teams like Haas and Alfa Romeo and Williams will improve, but they're not realistically going to be anywhere near challenging the likes of Racing Point, Renault and McLaren. And I guess actually right now, best of the rest does include Ferrari, especially given their issues. And it's not a battle for P4, it's a battle for P3. So I'm going to go with Racing Point for best of the rest in Hungary, the third best team. You'd expect them to be strong anyway, and if they can put a complete weekend together, they should be right up there. They showed quali pace in the first weekend in Austria, they showed race pace last weekend. Put that together and they could very much be the third best team. But in all honesty, it is total guesswork right now, and I wouldn't be surprised to see McLaren right up there too. I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in saying this, but I'm absolutely loving this mix-up of the running order so far in 2020. Just a shame it's not across the entire field. It would be great to see Racing Point and McLaren challenging Mercedes week in, week out, as well as Red Bull and Ferrari. But I'm still confident we will see a very good Grand Prix this weekend. Even if the top one or two teams do disappear, things are so tight behind that anything could happen. That is it for the Hungarian Grand Prix preview then, but you can let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of this weekend down in the comments section. Who are you backing for pole position and what about that win on Sunday? Now, I will be back with content across the weekend, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will catch you again in the next one. Bye bye.